All right. Well, I think this means that we are officially streaming to the YouTube. Hey,
Look at
everybody.
us.
Thanks for hanging out with us. My name is John. This is my friend Brad from the OVERLANDeRoos. I am starting a brand new segment or a brand new, I guess a segment, right? We'll call it a segment
I like it.
on my YouTube channel that we're calling Fat Stories. And the goal for the segment is to discuss and just hear, not discuss, but interview guys, folks like Brad that have run the Florida Adventure Trail. You'll notice that I don't have my normal background that I like. I had all the rigs parked up behind me and the trees and nature, but my second camera was not working properly today, Mr. Brad. So I'm in a spaceship now, according to you.
Are you
So
okay?
yeah, Brad, thank you so much for being willing to be the first participant in Fat Stories. Thanks so much for doing this. Brad is a great friend of mine. I am so grateful for him. So grateful for him being willing to do this segment. It's going to be a ton of fun. So, Brad, tell us who you are, why you matter, all the things.
Yeah, thanks, John. Absolutely. I am Brad Drew from OVERLANDeRoos. I don't, in fact, matter,
You
but
do matter and you belong, Brad. You
and
matter and you belong.
I appreciate that. We run I say we because it's my wife and I and my two kids. We run a channel out of Florida here where we just go out and we go do adventures, and sometimes the adventures don't always look like overlanding, but sometimes they do. But we run that on the channel, and we're very family central. We kind of look at it through the lens of homeschool slash wild schooling, going out and just kind of exploring the area around us, and not just Florida but everywhere, and getting the girls to take a tangible look at history and things like that, and interweaving overland and adventures like that through that whole experience,
That's
and of
awesome.
course share them with you guys.
Yeah, share them with you guys. Yeah, Brad, you and I actually met because of the Florida Adventure Trail, and
We
it's been
did,
a
yeah.
really cool journey of kind of really, and we'll talk more about this throughout the stream. But I had no idea that when I created the Florida Adventure Trail that I would get friends out of this deal, which is so cool. A lot of that was because of Danon with Adventure with Danon in Asia from Baptism Overland,
Yep.
working amongst the three of us to figure out a way for us to actually run the route together. The cool part, and I think I've told you this, I don't know if I have or not, but I didn't actually hear about you the first time from Asia. The way that I first heard about the Overlanderoos was in the Facebook group back when there
Yep.
was only like 1,000 people in the Facebook group. I said, "Hey, who are some of your favorite?" What is it with bugs every time we stream?
I don't know, but you
Um,
nailed it. You did great.
I got him. Last time it was the moth on my microphone. Do you remember
I
that?
do.
Somebody was like, "Oh man, I love Brad from the Overlanderoos," and I went over there, went over to your YouTube channel, and I think at the time you had like 200 subscribers or something like that, maybe 185. I can't quite remember.
Super
Now
low.
you're over 1,000, which is so cool, man. I think
Thanks to
it's
you and the fat
awesome.
community. Appreciate that.
Well, that's a big part of it. But, dude, I just want to say this before we really get into it. And I've said this to your face, and I'll say it to your face again. You're just an awesome guy. You're a family man. You serve our country. You do so much for so many people. And I love what you're doing for the overland community. I love the way that you're inspiring families to get out in the outdoors. And, one of the main reasons why I wanted you to be a part of this whole fat thing was because part of why I created the Florida Adventure Trail was because I want to help families connect with one another and make memories together in golly in the outdoors. And you're doing that, and you're inspiring other people to do it as well. So just wanted to say that before we get started. You've helped me a ton. In fact, you have connected me with Asia and Danon, and collectively, man, we've gotten to do so many cool things. In
It's been
fact,
awesome.
you have helped you and Asia and Danon helped make this a reality.
Yeah,
Did you get one of these in the mail?
I did get a 575 in the mail.
Oh, dude. Okay, so for those of you that are watching this, Midland Radio is doing some really cool stuff with all of us, but specifically because of the Florida Adventure Trail in Asia and Danon. They want more and more people in Florida, and people just like you running the Florida Adventure Trail right here using Midland radio. So I'm not a radio guy, but I do know that this is better than my Baofeng right now.
Yeah.
Okay, this is better than the Chinese radio that I have. So Brad, since I'm not a radio guy,
Yeah.
tell me why this radio is awesome. Or real, just spark notes.
Oh man, so Danon is actually the radio guy. If we're gonna shout it out, it's Danon. That's
True.
the guy. But
Okay,
the
fair
575 is 50 watts of GMRS power. So it's that good middle ground between your CB and your ham radio. 50 watts. If it was the most perfect conditions, line of sight was fantastic. You get like 50 miles out of that thing. But
Okay.
in all reality, we're probably going to get like 12 or 13 through the woods, through the highway, things like that. The convoys that we do and the communication that we do.
That's sweet.
So important because of what we do, right? We're out
Mhm.
there, we're kind of spread out. You specifically will go scout trails and stuff. You'll have us hang back
By myself.
by yourself.
Yeah.
And so we see how valuable trail comms are. And not just that, but man, they're just so useful for our filming because we'll kick like my wife will get kicked out of the Jeep and she'll go running a half mile down the trail and set up, and we did it all without handhelds before, and man, what a nightmare. So now we have the handhelds and the 575.
And the 575, yeah.
And there's no stopping us.
Yeah, dude, I'm pretty pumped about it. So thank you for edumacating me on this on this Midland radio. So and you'll think this is cool too. Check out what I'm using to run my computer right now.
Oh, you got one of those too?
I got an Elec Hive, which is pretty sweet from Zero Breeze. So shout out to Zero Breeze. Check this out. Look what's between my legs right now.
Oh, very nice.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the AC.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, like if there's one thing that is going to keep you from getting swamp booty, it's Zero Breeze.
It's that thing. I'm so excited to put ours into practice here. We've been using it to cool down the garage gym as we work.
Oh, sweet.
But it's going to be a game changer. Do you know how many times on the fat we looked at each other and we're like, why are we out here in July sweating and dying, going through 6 shirts, just packing up camp?
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
I'm super grateful for Zero Breeze because they want not only have they given us some really cool stuff to check out
for sure
and review and do all of that. And you know this, I'm not a review guy. I'm not trying to like push stuff on people unless I think it's good quality stuff. Like you and I get emails, so does Asia, so does Danon, so does Sunshine State Vikings. We get emails all the time from people that are like, hey, sell this crappy backpack thing, you know?
No,
and it's like, I'm good, thanks though. And so it's cool to have quality gear like Zero Breeze, not only hooking us up with stuff, but giving people that are part of the Florida Adventure Trail Facebook group, giving them discount codes. You know, we just added that partners page on our website,
that's awesome.
Which is really cool. So you can go in there, you can see all the people that are supporting the Florida Adventure Trail with discount codes and affiliate links where, you know, we get a little kickback from that, but all of that goes to help us with the Florida Adventure Trail, keeping trails open, all of that. So I've just dedicated funds from that to keep working on the Florida Adventure Trail. So anyways, that's my little shameless plug on cool gear. And you taught me about my radio.
No, I think not to get too off track, but the Zero Breeze is important, right? Because if we look at our camping season, it's really in the hottest months. If we're trying to get away from the hunting season and contend with those guys. So this opens up that ability to camp throughout Florida, not turn my family off from it altogether, and just kind of open that door for us. Zero Breeze makes that possible, and that's huge. We appreciate that.
Yeah, we with my wife and I, when I was showing my wife the first video that we made when we ran the Florida Adventure, the first section of the Florida Adventure Trail, which was was that last July?
Yeah.
Okay. And she's like, babe, you look, you and Danon and Asia were interviewing me about the fat. Mm-hmm. She's like, you look grumpy and mean and angry. And I was like,
but you weren't.
I wasn't, but I was grumpy because I was sweating my ever-loving face off.
Yep.
And my little rechargeable DeWalt fan did fine of like keeping the air circulating, but it was not cold. You know what I mean? So
look, I don't know why we landed on that date, but I don't know.
It was dumb. So, okay, enough about gear and stuff like that. But Brad, obviously there's this new, like, overlanding. The term overlanding
Yep.
is such a, like, I don't know. It's like, I mean, it's gotten popular, which I think is a cool thing, right? But
Sure.
really, what we're talking about is self-sustained adventure travel, right? Like that we just that's the thing. And then we've got, obviously, overlanding is what we kind of, the word that we use to talk about this. Like,
Yeah.
tell me about how you got into overlanding. Like, how long ago was that? What made you decide to get into it? Tell me just a little bit about that.
Man, we'll see if I can keep my head straight and get through this. But just growing up, I was always chasing some kind of self-sustained adventure, experiences that we talked about. Right, I was playing in the woods all night, and my parents would try to figure out where I was, and down by the stream, hanging out. Right, I grew
Yeah.
up on books like My Side of the Mountain, Far Side of the Mountain, where
Oh,
a
yeah.
little boy runs off and lives in a tree with his falcon, Frightful, and just survives and thrives. And so, from a
I
very
love
young
that
age,
book, man. I
man, it
love
is
that book,
my
and I loved the book, The
favorite book.
Hatchet, too. Did you ever
The
read The
Hatchet's good.
Hatchet?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
similar kind of thing. That's cool.
White Fang. I mean, you name it. Like
Yeah.
those are the books that I grew up on. So I just got this taste for getting out there, going on adventures,
Mhm.
kind of pushing to see how far I could get and what I'm capable of doing.
Sure.
We've had conversations like that before, but
Yeah.
I think from a young age, I was super engaged in that kind of activity. And then I got my driver's license, and I bought a '93 Jeep YJ, no power
Nice.
steering, big tires, so the thing made me strong at stoplights, trying to figure out where I was going to go. But that started my like, hey, I can use this to kind of fuel what I want to do. So all through college, all through high school, college, growing up, it's been, I mean, like I didn't really know what overlanding was until a couple years ago, but it was that how far out, how remote can I get, sustain myself, and just kind of get away from people and experience what the good Lord has blessed us with, and
Yeah.
just I don't know, I'm enthralled with those stories of like adventure and exploration, um,
Sure.
just things like that. It pushes me, and then I obviously give it to the girls, and they get that
Yeah.
same attitude and
I love it, man.
that same excitement to
That's
go out.
so, like, how long ago did you get, which it kind of leads us to the next question I want to ask you.
Yep.
Like, tell me about, you don't have a YJ anymore.
Nope.
You had an XJ for a while. I've seen pictures of that beast. But at some point along the way, as did I, you and I went from, like, crazy for, I had, you know this, I had a K30 military CUCV cargo truck on
So cool.
40-inch, crazy,
Yep.
not overlanding in that thing, right?
No. Yeah.
And then at some point you're like, okay, let's do something different. Let's take a move from, like, the off, more like intense rock crawling type of an experience, which again is super cool. And I love all of that.
But
But you
expensive.
made the shift to move towards overlanding, which is
Yep.
also expensive.
It can be. Yep.
Um, but now you have a really sweet Gladiator. So tell me about your Gladiator. Tell me a little bit about your setup, especially for those people that are hanging out with us that maybe have a Gladiator. Tell me a little bit about your experience with it.
Yeah. So I mean, you're right. I went through every flavor of Jeep. Before the Gladiator was an XJ with 300,000 miles on. I mean, the thing was on 35s, front and rear locks, chrome alloy axle shafts. Like it was worked over pretty good, but it wasn't reliable.
Got it.
So you've met my wife. You know that she's very strict about how safe we are with the kids, and that's a good
Sure.
thing, right?
Yeah.
So we are having the discussions of if we want to continue down this journey, we need a different vehicle, a better vehicle. So we had a couple
Right.
things in mind, right? The Gladiator and the Tacoma were they're like the contenders,
Sure.
and the Tacoma is a great vehicle. I'll never knock it. I think it's fantastic. But I'm a
Yeah.
Jeep guy at heart. Like I've had a Jeep since I could drive.
Right.
Besides the short stint with like a 1984 Pontiac Fiero, different story for a different day. Um, but man, so we landed on the Gladiator due to the size,
Yeah.
the being able to haul some extra stuff because we have kids, and with that comes an inevitable extra amount of gear.
Yeah.
Um,
You guys, like, I'm normally with me or with my wife,
yep.
and our dogs. And I thought that we needed and, like, you're not an over gear guy. Like, you're not
Trying not
coming
to be.
with, well, you're really not. And it blew my mind. Like, holy cow. Yeah. When you've got a wife plus two kids, you need more stuff.
Yep.
And so, yeah, the Gladiator has so much more. I mean, especially more than the Xterra. You've got way more cargo space that you're working with, which is
We
great.
do, and so it's a blessing and a curse, right? The drivers always try to fill that with cool gear, and but man, you don't want to. But the Gladiator fits the bill. It's comfortable, and we knew that we wanted the Rubicon because we were coming from a like model, right? The Cherokee, the front
Yeah,
rear lockers, all that stuff. We didn't want to start over from scratch. We wanted as many things covered from the factory as possible to have that reliable vehicle, that comfortable vehicle to go out there and explore and do things.
sure.
And we have not lifted it. It's still on the stock factory Falcon Wild Peak all-terrain tires, and this thing is just it's been fantastic. Except for the one time you had to pull me out because we framed out. It's gone
That was
everywhere
a
I've asked
special
it to
spot.
go. Yeah, it's gone absolutely everywhere we've asked it to go. Now up in
It's
Georgia, we
awesome.
found the diff a couple times and a couple skid plates, but it's been super reliable, super comfortable, just a blast.
Love it. What has been your favorite modification on the Gladiator?
Oh man, um, probably the snorkel because I have this weird like affliction for water crossings and especially sketchy ones.
Okay.
Uh, so the snorkel kind of gives me
Peace of
the
mind.
dangerous confidence, we'll call it,
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm
to
tracking along on that.
to go and tackle those things. A little bit peace of mind, but other than that, man, it's just a tent because that's what we live in for the majority of the time that we're up
Yeah,
there.
it's awesome. Well, okay, so love that. Love the Gladiator, and you actually have on your YouTube channel a really cool walk around that you did on the Gladiator, which I think is
Yep.
great. So definitely, if you've got a Gladiator and you're listening to this, go over and check out his walk around on the Gladiator. Did a great job with that, and you're
Thank you.
continuing to build it and modify it. So we'll keep following around for that.
It's a work in
Okay, so
progress.
let's talk about the Florida Adventure Trail now. I have some specific questions for you, but like give us like how did you, just to start off, how did you hear about the Florida Adventure Trail? Like when did you first hear about it?
So I had kind of heard about it simultaneously on Facebook through you bragging about it and through Asia because you had reached out to Asia to run it
Hmm.
and do some of the filming for it. And so he I and Dana. That's not good English, but you get the idea. Dana and he and I were in a group chat, and he's like, "Guys, check this out." And so we started talking about it. And I don't know who. Well, you kind of talked about how I got involved in that, but that was kind of
Yeah.
the first inkling that I got with the Ford Adventure Trail, and I was like, man, this is going to be so cool, and I really wanted to be a part of it, just because I believed in it. Right, it was just something that was unique to Florida because we didn't have anything like that, and I think I secretly kind of knew how much work you had put into it without ever even talking to you. So I knew that I wanted to help you promote that and show the world how cool it could be.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember kind of that whole thing, and it was I was joking. I think with Danon maybe at when we were at the expo together.
Yep.
I was like, that whole thing was just such a snowball effect of like, well, we're gonna go shoot this video. You know, we're gonna all you, Asia from Baptism Overland, Danon from Danon Adventure with Danon. You at first y'all were like, oh, we'll just go run this when we can,
Yeah.
and then y'all were like, no, let's do it together. And then you invited me, to come along with you. And I'm a pretty extroverted guy, like for the most part.
That makes sense.
But I will just say I'm not big on like best way I can say is like I'm not big on captive experiences. Like going on a cruise is not something I really want to do because I'm like I'm stuck with these people for a
Right.
week, and if
Yep.
I don't like the people, like I want to escape.
Yep.
And so I was a little nervous about meeting up with you guys, and y'all knew each other, but you didn't know me, and so that and I didn't really know y'all other than just through hanging out and stuff. So I'm so glad that it all worked out the way that it was. And definitely had a ton of fun on that first trip. So we'll talk a little bit more about how we shot those different trips and how they pieced together. But
Yeah.
tell me about and give me the good, the bad, the ugly, positive feedback, negative feedback. I want to bring as many people on fat stories as I can in the coming months and years
Yeah.
even. But like give me your feedback. Like, tell me about your experience on the FAP.
So the experience overall was fantastic. It was absolutely amazing. It's one of those trips that I often use as a litmus test for other tests to see,
Mm,
like, what kind of experience we had.
sure.
There was a couple things that stood out when we did this. Was the time of the year that we chose was not ideal, and our accelerated
Yes.
schedule. And we've talked about this stuff, so I'm not telling you anything that you haven't.
Well, yeah, you're
I'm
not
not
talking to me. You're talking to the millions of people watching right now.
right. So my best advice is to kind of take the stance that you get done what you get done.
Sure.
don't don't look at these mile markers and waypoints as like I've got to press on and I've got to make it 200 miles today, or I'm going to be behind schedule and the trails are ruined and my experience is ruined. I don't know why I'm even doing this. Right. So we knew that we had a schedule to meet just to get filming done, but that was really
Sure.
hard. Like that was in a way it kind of took away from the enjoyment of the adventure a little bit. And so these are things that we've talked about, and I tell everyone, like, you can do this entire trail start to finish in 6 or 7 days. Give
Oh
yourself a
yeah.
day
Yeah.
buffer just to go explore some of the stuff off the trails that is really cool to see. Like this is a foundational trail, and there's so many things to see off trail. There's just no way that you could have put every side trail on the Florida Adventure Trail and make it doable ever, right? So
No, absolutely. Yeah.
um, those were the two, like, I don't even want to call them negatives, but just learning moments that we
Sure.
took away from the trail. But the
Yeah.
trail overall, man, was so cool. It's so fun. We talked about, um, and I talked about some of this at the expo with a bunch of people. But every forest is kind of similar, but also very distinctly different. So as you travel throughout the state, everyone is just, it's got its own touch, and it's very, like, very
Yeah.
unique in how it's laid out, set up, and the trails that are out there, and the obstacles that you come across. I just think it's really, you've masterfully put this thing together to give us a taste and expose us to just about, like, every different variety that Florida has to offer in a
Yeah.
really obtainable way. So that was cool for us. And
Well, thanks.
I think the other thing that I really like is you didn't omit the small towns, right? You didn't just say, okay, I got to get you from point A to point B. We'll go highway super fast. We'll get you there and you back on the trail. You said, no, let's go through Micanopy. Let's go through these other small towns that A, can really benefit from our tourism,
Hmm.
and B, kind of expose us to some really cool mom and pop antique shops and restaurants and a chance to fill up gas,
Yeah.
and just really get immersed in all of Florida, right? Because,
Sure.
man, you could take I-10 all the way down and you're not seeing
Yeah.
anything. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
what's the point?
I think, when the two things I'd say, based on what you've shared so far, is one, going back to what you've said about, how quickly we kind of had to keep moving and skip certain trails and things like that.
Yeah.
That is I think, and I say this all the time, I never wanted to be a YouTuber. Like, this was not what I set out to do.
But you're doing
It's
great.
Well, thanks. Other than the fact that I'm like almost 3 weeks late on putting out my latest Georgia video, but pish posh.
It'll come.
The thing that I don't think people who are like going, oh, I want to make YouTube videos, whether they think they want to be a YouTuber or just make YouTube videos or not, my goodness, it is so much more complicated to in and I'm not saying don't make YouTube videos, right? But it's so much more difficult to find enjoyment in trips when you also have to tell a story and
Yep.
capture video. Like, I remember the first video that I shot was with you guys, really. The
Hmm.
first, like, trip that I actually made a YouTube video was that first trip with y'all, and how I was thinking about things differently, right? Instead of like just being a trail guide and being able to soak in the trail in between areas where I know I need to get out and spot somebody, I was thinking about things differently. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's a bad thing. Different isn't bad, but it is different, right? And so I think, like, one of the things that I've realized, and I know that you and Dane, Brad and I have talked about, is like having trips where we just don't shoot stuff, or where one person can shoot or whatever, so that you can actually unplug.
Yeah.
That's the whole point behind self-sustained adventure travel is, and I say this over and over and over again, is like, man, oh man, we live in a world that's so busy and stressful for a lot of people. We've got all these things that have our attention and need our time. And
Yeah,
overlanding is our way of disconnecting from all of that and slowing down. And I do think sometimes shooting video takes away from that a little bit if you're not hyper intentional with it. If you're not like, okay, we're going to make sure that we're intentional with it. So I absolutely agree with you.
yeah,
You know, absolutely agree with you on that. And then the second thing I'll add is just the coolest part for me on leading those 3 trips with the crews that we had was time and time again. And, Asia's from the panhandle. You're from out on, all the way on the East Coast.
yep,
Danon's from, what I consider South Florida. I'm from North Central Florida, right?
yeah,
Um, and everybody that was on those trips was from everywhere in between. Time and time again, every single person was like, holy cow, like I didn't realize how diverse,
hmm,
like the flora and fauna and just all of that connected to the way that Florida looks. You just think Florida just is what it is, and that's just not. Like there's so much to see. There's so much diversity in terrain. There's so much diversity in, you know, the woods and the things that you get to see. We
yeah,
go from the swamps to the beach to rivers to all these different types of things. And once we release the southern route that goes all the way down to the Keys and back, the SOFAT,
it's gonna be so dope.
which my buddy Charlie, who's helping me with all of that, he went and he just got back. I had a phone call with him today from pre-running the very first little piece of it,
Yeah,
and it's gonna be pretty cool. But yeah, I love what you say about that. Like the Florida Adventure Trail expands your horizons to see towns that you would never see normally, to experience stuff that you would never experience. And I just think I know I made it, but I don't feel like it's for me. I don't feel like it's this thing that I made that's about me. So like
yeah,
I feel like I can talk about it in a disconnected way, and just say like, man, you get to see so much of Florida that we just miss out on. So
yeah. It's super cool.
okay, so more specifically,
Uh huh.
uh, trip number one, we started up on the Florida Georgia line. We
Yep.
ran all the way down into Ocala.
Did
Tell me
no?
a
Yeah,
little.
we did. We did make it into Ocala.
Yeah, we made it
Okay.
into Ocala because our last night camping was at Hopkins Prairie.
Yeah, then you
Tell me
abandoned
about
us.
that experience for you.
So that is my first time being on the prairie. We'll get back to that in a minute. So
Yeah,
we started in Osceola. Man, Osceola is such a love hate. Osceola is super fun, but it is a swamp. It is buggy. It holds its water. Like it is just, I don't know. It's fun for a little while, and then you want to get out of there.
yeah,
But there's some amazing trails in Osceola, and Zach and Tracy, and we had, man, my English is terrible tonight. We had done a portion of Osceola, a portion of the fat through Osceola before we even knew the fat existed,
yeah,
and we have a video on that. And I just fell in love with it. Just the ability to kind of crawl your way through some swampy, muddy, boggy. It looks like you're in another planet.
yeah.
It's just super cool. So yeah, we made it through Osceola and that really deep, sketchy water crossing that you assured me I would block my engine on. Uh,
It was a nothing burger. It
it
was
was,
fine.
but it's so cool. Like it's such a nice,
Yeah.
like each force that you put in there has one of those little highlights in it, and I think that's super cool. But yeah, so
Yep.
then we,
And that
uh,
just for those listening, that deep water crossing is on a hard section, right? So, I think just, for those of you that are watching and listening along, like if you stay on the main route, now obviously things can change in Florida with all the rain that we get and stuff.
yeah,
But if you stay on the main route, for the most part, you can do it on an adventure bike. You might have to make a bypass here and there. You can do it in like a Subaru cross trek with off-road tires, like you can do it.
yeah,
But then like that deep water crossing in Osceola, the hard sections that are marked, there's some pucker moments in there. So
for sure.
yeah. So we
Uh,
we left Osceola and we headed down towards Micanopy at that point.
I was just gonna ask you where we headed because I do this thing
Yeah.
sometimes where I don't pay attention, and I don't know
It's
where
good.
we end up. So
Yeah.
Micanopy was cool. We drove through that little town, and I so badly wanted to stop and just kind of walk around and
Mhm.
and go into some of those shops. It's actually on Kalen and I's list to head back
To
to.
go back to Micanopy, oh
Yep,
man, Pearl's Barbecue, go into the town.
so
So
good,
much history in Micanopy. It's a really cool spot.
so good. And then where do we go from there? Loch Lusa? No,
Yep, we went into
Lo-
Loch Lusa, which is a little hidden gem in my neck of the woods. Yep.
Yep. So I had never experienced that before. That was
Yeah.
really cool. And then Ocala, heading to the prairie, man. Like that's one of those quintessential Florida overlanding camp spots on the prairie, and I think just getting to experience that was amazing. And we actually brought the family back on a different day to go try to enjoy that. But
Hmm.
man, that first day was hot and muggy, but so cool. It rained
Yeah.
like it always does in Florida, which
Yep.
adds a cool little dynamic. We met up with my dentist.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
So
Dennis and Ron was on that trip. That was fun.
yeah, the friend group grew, and those were the first time I met those people as well.
Same.
So
Yeah. That was a
um,
cool thing. And I just remember this now. Like we that night we camped in a spot where you're not even supposed to camp, but we had to because of how crazy the weather was. Do you
yeah,
remember that? Like
yeah, you set
we
the
were
flag right
looking
on.
on there, yeah, and there was like storms all around us in this one little pocket, and I was like, "That's where we're camping tonight. Is
That's
right
it.
there." Yeah. And then you guys camped at Hopkins Prairie that night, and then I
We
had
did.
to leave, and then you guys went further south into Ocala, and
Well,
then so that was our
Hopkins,
first trip.
it
I
was
was going, yeah,
Hopkins
talk about
Prairie.
Hopkins.
If
Hopkins.
you remember, we were just gonna stop there for lunch, and then we got there
Yep,
and we're
that's
like,
right.
let's
The
call it.
storm was rolling in.
Let's call it. Let's stay here. So we set up
Yeah.
everyone's awnings and just kind of hung out and
Yeah,
had a good time. Then you abandoned us, which is
as
fine.
always, yes.
Yeah, that's fine. But
That was a cool spot.
there, it was so cool. You had said that you saw a bear on your way out, so we kind of took some precautions there
Yeah,
with food.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Mom and her cubs actually on my way out, which is one of the great things I think about the fat, as well as any adventure trail, whatever state you're in, every state in the Southeast now has at least one adventure trail of some type
yeah,
or a BDR, which is like more of the adventure motorcycle, verbiage is BDR, backcountry discovery route. But every state has one, and you get to see so much nature that we as humans have pushed into the far corners of the earth as we
I know it
build
makes me so
more
sad.
crap than we need, But man, yeah, seeing those bear cubs was super cool. So then our second trip,
Yep.
that was when we did. Now you and I met up early because everybody else was kind of running behind and stuff like that. So we ran the whole Rich Loam section,
Yep.
and then Croom, and then the world famous Citrus. Right.
Yep.
That was kind of what we ran, and then we met up with Asia and Dennis and Ron. And that's when we ran up towards Sheared Island and all of that. So tell me a little bit about your experience on that section of the fat.
So Rich Loam is super scary because it'll swallow your rig up and you'll die and no one will ever see you again. But
On
we
the hard one. Yeah.
we made a point to stay on the main roads because we had the discussion, right? It had rained
Yeah.
for a couple
A
days
lot.
prior,
Yeah.
a lot of rain, and we checked our ego at the door, which I think was a good thing, and
Yeah.
decided it wasn't worth trashing the rigs, getting ourselves into sticky situations. So we'll stick to the main road and travel through Rich Loam. But Rich Loam is beautiful. It's one of those really cool, unique places that's definitely worth going to see.
Yeah.
Um, and then Citrus is, I mean, I'm dying to go back. We talked about doing a trip to kind
Yeah.
of work on. For me, it's a good place to work on off-road skills in a controlled environment where you're not trying to make time to go anywhere, but you can do some of the off-camber stuff and
Sure.
um,
Well,
push the
that was
envelope a
really
little bit.
your first that citrus trip. That was the most off camber. That one little section
Yeah, 26
was you said
degrees,
26 degrees. Yeah,
which is
and
which is
Kaylin got out. She was like,
it's crazy. I look back on that because we just got off the Georgia Traverse and there was some
"Yep,
off-camber stuff there, and I'm like,
oh, I know.
man,
I
this
sent you
ain't
down some
nothing.
stuff on."
But it
Yeah,
was confidence building. So for me,
absolutely
going through Citrus was one of those things that like, okay, I'm learning my rig a little bit more because the Gladiator's
right.
fairly new to us, and having
Yeah,
a tent that high was fairly new to us. So it was a
sure,
good place for us to talk about a lot of the things that go into how to safely operate your vehicle off road
sure.
and put those things into practice. And
Yeah,
then we camped at
We camped at
Hog Island.
Hog Island. Yeah, Hog Island's a lot of people don't know about Hog Island. Like the more that people hit me up on in the Facebook group and
Yep.
ask about campsites and stuff. I find more and more a lot of people don't know about Hog Island. Which now
Beautiful.
again, Hog Island, beautiful spot. There's bathrooms there, which is great. The river
Yeah.
runs right past there. There's a little boat launch.
Wood
Um,
ducks. Who knew
there,
those
oh
were a
yeah, there
thing?
was wood ducks for days. I told my brother about that spot, and he was like, "Can I hunt in there?" I was like, "No, Jeremy, it's a camping spot." But yeah, there's wood
We
ducks everywhere. It's a cool spot. Now you do have to book that ahead of time on Reserve America, which we did.
There's
But
nobody there when we were
there
there.
was
It was
nobody there.
empty.
Yeah, Hog Island's a great spot, especially right now with Holder Mine Campground. I think possibly still being closed
Oh
in
man.
Citrus for camping. Don't hold me to that. It is April 30th, but as far as I know, I think Holder Mine is still the dispersed camping is still, or the more primitive camping spots. I think is closed currently. The hunt camp, but yeah,
We
Hog
had to we had
Island.
to move my tent in the middle of the night, remember? Because
That was a thing.
branches were falling
We
on it, and I was
That
like,
was a learning experience trip, I think, for you in a lot of ways. We talked about widowmaker tree branches and
"Yep."
like how to look up and see that stuff. We talked about center of gravity, right?
Hmm.
Like, and this isn't, this is I've already had this conversation with you, but
Yeah,
so many
absolutely.
people believe that their center of gravity is significantly higher in their vehicle than it actually is, and so and should we be aware when we put a tent on top of a vehicle and things like that
Yeah.
about center of gravity? Sure. But most people don't realize how low their center of gravity actually is. So we talked a lot about that. And that's why 26 degrees was a breeze, right?
Yeah, the traverse was confident. At one point, Zach was like, "Hey, me and Tracy were watching you. We thought you almost flipped." And Cameron were like, "It felt fine to us. Like we were good."
That's awesome. So we camped at Hog Island. Then we knocked out Citrus. We went to the caves and did all of that,
So
which
cool, so
your
cool.
girls loved. That was
Yep.
such a cool thing. And then we met up with our buddy Asia from Baptism Overland. Ron and Dennis. Danon couldn't meet up with us, unfortunately. He was running so far behind with some stuff that he wasn't able to meet up with us.
Well,
And
he
then
hates trails that end in AT.
that's
So he,
true.
yeah, so
Yeah,
he doesn't go to those.
man, the Overland gods not shining upon him.
It's
He
been
should
rough.
get some Overland crystals and rub them together. He can, I'm sure that's not a thing.
It's not a thing.
It's definitely not. Yeah. Anyways, we won't go on my crystal topic, but nonetheless, great sandwiches, not great for manifesting. All right. Um, so then we hit the trails and we ended up at Shired Island,
Yeah,
which for the longest time I called Sheared,
me too. Yep,
but it is in fact Shired
pretty standard.
Island,
It is.
which we had. I want you to give me your play-by-play of Shired Island. But disclaimer for those of you that are watching, Dixie County has done a great job of cleaning up
They have.
Shired Island. It's way cleaner than it was. I was just there a couple weeks ago. I will say that at times some crazy people show up in the middle of the night and make a bunch of noise still. I've
Yeah.
been there 5 or 6 times now, and 2 out of the 6 times, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning and some idiot gets there, gets something stuck on the beach or whatever. So you're just going to deal with that. It is what it is.
For sure.
Honestly, I'll take that over a generator running all night on somebody's Winnebago. So tell me about your Shired Island experience, Brad.
Oh man, so Shired Island in my mind had a lot to live up to before we got there. It was the last not remote,
Yeah.
but last camping spot on the beach in the
I
state of
may have
Florida.
even oversold it. Some
You may have, and that's okay. So we roll in there, and man, I don't want to offend anybody, but there was like a homeless encampment.
I mean, there was. That is a true thing.
It was grubby. There were people
Yeah.
obviously living there. I mean, there was a camper there with all of their laundry and everything just in their front yard area.
Yeah.
It was just, I was uncomfortable, which is a bummer because I was surrounded by some beautiful scenery that was hindered by
Mhm.
some people that have obviously overstayed their welcome. And listen,
Yeah.
I'm super sympathetic to people down on their luck and having to live out of their campers and things like that. And what better place to do it than Shired Island? I get it. I'm not crazy, but it took away from any bit of the experience that would have been good. It was buggy. The water was had just trash floating in it. We didn't have um, a really good camp spot. We were just kind of tucked
Right.
over under the street light. Lots of ticks. I got one in my belly button.
I
That
do
took an hour
remember
and a half
that. That was not
to
a
dig
great thing
out.
that happened.
Man, I don't know what it is, but and I hate belly button touches in general. So that was a bummer. But every video I've seen since we went out there and since we kind of exposed it to Dixie County has
Yeah.
shown just a gorgeous place to camp with good
Right.
people. And so our experience is unique, and I'm blessed to be able to know that, to know that other people are going to go have better experiences.
Right. Yeah, I think, we learned a lot on that trip about even just how to properly deal with some of that stuff over in Dixie County. But yeah, definitely a bummer that it was as dirty as it was while we were there. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm trying to figure out why my computer is not currently charging there, Brad. So that's a whole thing.
Is your port on your Alechive on?
I don't know. How do I turn on my port?
There should be a button.
Huh.
Does it show a power draw on the screen?
No.
So if you don't know, John is trying to run this whole live stream from the Alechive.
Tell me what I'm doing wrong here.
Well, I can't really see, but you gotta turn your USB thing on.
Okay, I think it's on.
And yeah, that little green light showing. So you should show a power draw on your screen there, and then your computer should be.
Okay, yeah, it says 19 watts. So
there you go. Now you're off to the races.
Thanks. Look at that.
Look at us.
Well,
look at us learning and teaching.
All right, so tell me about the panhandle section of oh, it is working. I'm just reading this wrong on my screen, so we're good.
It happens.
All right, you see, look, I was sweating. I was like, oh my gosh, my computer's gonna die.
You were freaking out a little bit.
I was. Everything's fine now. I'm learning how to use all the things that I got. Okay, so tell me about the panhandle section that we ran. Tell me about your experience there.
So man, that is one of the coolest sections. The panhandle section, I really feel like is Florida's best kept secret. Like going across that land bridge and then throwing the drone up and just seeing what's around us on both sides was just absolutely amazing. It was it's not super technical, it's not hard, but it is like just super aesthetically pleasing. It is one of the coolest sections to drive through. And if you're going to skip a section, it's not that one.
Yeah, don't skip that one. Yeah.
And if you have a drone, throw that sucker up and take a look at what's around you, because it's really, really cool.
Yeah, that's a cool set. You're talking about up there in Big Bend, where the water's on both sides of you and all of that. That is a very cool. That's a very cool spot. All right, and so then our third and final trip that we ran, that's where things got real interesting for you, Brad. Tell us all about that.
So it got weird quick for us. So it started off trying to get the diesel heater working, I guess. So we ran some we got out there, we ran some trails, right? And we pulled in kind of later at night. Asia and Dana were already there waiting for us in this super cool hip camp right on the river. Gorgeous spot, by the way. Is that on the Fat Files? If it isn't, it should be.
Oh yeah. Yep,
Excuse me.
It's right there after you get out of Apalachicola. For those of you that are watching, you'll see there's a camping icon right as you get out of Apalachicola, and it is an epic hip camp spot. It's a little on the pricey side, but I would just say 100% worth it. Right there on the river, it's so cool.
So it was like 20 degrees out at night. It had dropped, and I just had remembered, I don't know if you remember, but Asia had the Zero Breeze Mark II to begin with, and was talking about how cold he got at night and how comfortable he was. Meanwhile, we're all sweating. We dropped 45 pounds in water weight. We just looked like shriveled up bodybuilders. But Asia was cold at night. So I was like, man, I'm going to shove this back in his face. So I'm going to have the diesel heater. I'm going to be sweating at night. Y'all are going to be freezing. It's going to be awesome. The diesel heater spewed fuel everywhere. It got into the intake. So it was pumping straight diesel gas into the tent. Not a good situation for anybody. So I spent a couple hours trying to clean that up. Got diesel fuel in my eyes. Was rinsing that out. It was super cold. Just fought with this thing forever. Fed the girls dinner, and then Piper was going up in the tent, my youngest, to get to sleep and get bundled up and warmed up. She's like, I'm gonna throw up. So we got her out of the tent, and lo and behold, she did throw up all of her SpaghettiOs at the base of the ladder. And so, man, to just kind of segue for a second here, we travel with such a qualified group of people. It is amazing the skill sets that they bring to the table. So I, on this last trip, really essentially had an entire ER staff at my disposal and my family's disposal. Just fantastic, right? So,
Yeah.
long story short, me and my wife talk. Jess and Asia take a look at her to make sure that she's okay, and she's probably fine. But we decided that we're gonna head home, bring her home, let her kind of recover. So we started the 4.5-hour drive home. Halfway home, Kaylin said, "You got to pull over right now." She threw up, so we got her home. And as we're going to bed, it was like, what, 4 a.m. or something like that by the time we got home.
Yeah.
As we were going to bed, she was like, "You can go back out if you want to." I said, "Well, I'll see how I feel in the morning." It was a long night. And I think I texted you. I said, "Hey, I'm coming back out." So ditched some of the family stuff out of the back of the truck and decided to hightail it on out. Meanwhile, as I'm driving up there, I'm finding out that Danon had to leave. Mitch's kid had something. Like, there was 4 or 5 other families with the same stomach bug going on, and they were falling out. So they left, and I met up with you guys just after you had done, what was it, like Sunshine Acres, and right before Eglin Air Force Base.
Yeah.
Is it called Sunshine Acres? I may have made that up.
I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but
that
yeah,
big abandoned neighborhood that's like
the Armageddon neighborhood.
Million.
Yeah.
So you guys were traveling through that, and we were kind of sharing our locations. I saw you guys doing that. But anyway, I caught up with you guys on the highway, just outside of a Waffle House parking lot. Super American place to meet up. We're traveling through Eglin. We made a wrong turn off of the fat for no reason, as John would say. We were following his buddy, who was well-intentioned. I will say he's well-intentioned. But we met up with some law enforcement. No
Mitch,
good deed goes unpunished.
You're watching this, Mitch. You almost got us arrested.
I didn't want to call him out, but yeah. So Mitch took a turn trying to get us to our campsite because it was getting dark, and if you film anything along the way, it adds like 10 times the amount of length that it should normally take.
Yes.
To do anything. Sure. So it's getting dark. It's getting cold. We just want to get to our campsite. We met up with law enforcement. They checked all of our IDs and our passes. Most everybody had one, and just kind of made sure that we were doing the right things. Because what we ended up doing was driving through a Army Ranger live fire exercise. So had we been there a couple minutes prior, if we hadn't stopped and filmed that last segment, we probably would have been in handcuffs, and that's per the cops that were there, not just something we're surmising. He was like, "Man, you guys are like, you're this close."
Yep.
So we get out of there. Mitch is telling us his life story on the radio. Ben gets stuck in a mud hole and can't tell anybody.
Yes.
You and Mitch just kept
because Mitch is like, and then that's when I was born, and my mama was.
I love the guy.
I don't know why he sounds like Hank from King of the Hill, but whatever.
Yeah, it just makes sense. So you guys are just driving off. Ben is stuck. We're all behind him. We finally get you guys to come back and help us out. So we get him out of there, and I forget what the temperature dropped down to, but you made an amazing dinner. And then we had the discussion
It was cold.
It was cold. We were sitting around a campfire, but we were like, "Man, there's just so many people here that we can't get warm because we can't get close enough to the fire." So I was like, "I'll go get my solo stove. We'll spark up the solo stove." I grabbed my camping bin, which has my first aid kit, bungee corded to the top to move that out of the way. Right. And when I didn't have a flashlight, it was dark. And when I did, that bungee cord came at me like I had called his mother's name. And it hit me right in the head, almost got my eye. I was convinced that I was blind. I had to like talk myself into the fact that I could see again, which is weird why I would need to do that, being able to see. But you guys said that you had heard it over by the fire. And I
did. I heard it and I knew. And then you came over and you had your hand like this and you just were like squirting blood everywhere.
I was going to hide it. I was going to hide it from you guys.
On the tree.
I'm like, man, this is going to inconvenience the trip. And So I was like, I'm gonna
We
hide it.
got it sorted,
But
man.
as soon as I pulled my hand away, like covered in blood, like you said, with sweat, I was like, I can't hide this. So Adrian was like, Jess, you need to come over here right now. And then Jess patched me up. Probably gave me better. I mean, it was Jess, Ron, Risa, and Jack. They gave me better service than I would have gotten in a clinic. I really mean that.
Oh, I agree. And dude, think about how this is such a great reminder to folks that if you're going to do this type of stuff, one, have a legit first aid kit,
Yeah,
not the one you can get on Amazon that's for, like band-aids and boo-boos, like a legit first aid kit,
yeah,
and then freaking know how to use it, even at the bare minimum. Like, I have zero medical experience, but I've done an IFAC training, I've done some wilderness medicine baseline
yep.
stuff. Like, I'm grateful I've done that. I wouldn't have been able to stitch you up beautifully, but I would have been able to control the bleed, make sure that you weren't, knocked out or whatever,
Yep.
that you didn't have some type of concussive syndrome, concussive symptoms,
Yeah.
and take you, but it would have taken us an hour and a half to get you to
But
medical,
what a
you
learning
know?
moment, right? Because
Right,
we
learning,
had
yes.
talked about it. I'm like, I don't know how I would have treated myself in any
Right,
real impactful way. And it was
that's what I'm
also
saying, yeah,
we were blessed to have the Weebu, so you could call my wife, who wasn't surprised that
right,
I had hurt myself at all.
correct, yep,
And then we had a discussion of, okay, do you want to go to the clinic? Which I had said no, because that's silly. Why would I do that?
right,
But like all those things factored in, you have to kind of play that out in your mind of what that looks like. And like you said, we would have had to pack up camp. We would have had to get through
yep.
the trails that we had just come down to a clinic about an hour and a half away. And had this been any more severe, like that's a big deal.
Oh, yeah,
So you made excellent points, and it's something that I'm working on too, is having a more in depth first aid kit and having better
yep,
training, because I really feel like first aid training has a shelf life to it, and if you don't stick up with it and
yeah,
use it, you're going to
yep.
lose some of those skills.
I agree with that as
And then
well.
just
Yeah,
surround
that's
yourself
great.
with super qualified people, and you'll be all right.
Yeah, yeah. Make friends with overland people who, well, one, just make friends with overland people,
Yeah,
like, don't go alone. I've talked to people all the time who are like, "Hey, when are you doing an organized trail ride?" And the truth is, probably never. Like, I don't have the time, I don't have the bandwidth, to do that. I wish I did,
yeah,
but I just don't. And so I encourage people all the time, like, make overland friends. There's almost 8,000 people in our Facebook group now. Make a post. Hey, I'm going to go run the fat for 3 days. I'm looking for 6 people that want to go with me. Like, that's how you meet people. That's how build a crew. Like, people, I think, see us all hanging out and going on trips, and it's like, they're like, oh man, I want that.
yeah,
And I'm not trying to make it happen,
yeah,
like, and I know it's hard. I know it's not that easy, but like, find one person, even if you see somebody in your neighborhood with a Jeep, just be like, hey, you want to go do some trails with me sometime? Like, I just think in this digital world that we're in, people have lost the art of friend making, of like
yeah,
being able to just reach out and be like, hey, I'm not trying to kill you in the woods, like, let's just hang out. So yes, I agree. Don't go alone. Have some medical, at least baseline training, have the right gear. I think every person should have a tourniquet in their vehicle, know how to use it, don't just have the thing and not know how to use it. Like, those types of things are super, super important. But yeah, dude, we fixed your face. And look at how
yeah.
beautiful he is, folks.
I am
What a
gorgeous. I
good,
know
we'll
that.
even
Yeah,
zoom in on you. Look, if I click this button, I think it'll make you bigger and me smaller. Whoa, look at that.
yeah. So, and you kind of
Look
touched
at
on
our
it while you guys admire my face.
Oh.
This community of people, uh, and specifically the overland community, and these adventurists that we surround ourselves with, are just 99% of them are really genuinely great people. They're fantastic people, and I, like you, was nervous to be not associated, but like trapped into a week long trip with people I may not know, right? Because
Sure.
uh, we're kind of committed at that point. We can't just be like,
Yep.
"Hey, you're not so cool. I'm leaving." Like it would
I'm
just get
leaving.
weird.
I get it.
Uh,
Yep.
but time and time again, I prove myself and my worries and my concerns wrong, and I'm blown away by the generosity, the genuineness, the friendships that come out of these things, and it's just uh, yeah. Don't be afraid to knock on your neighbor's door and be like, "Hey, man, want to go out in the woods and get weird?" And then see what he says.
I love it. And then so then I want us to end right on time because our friend Asia from Baptism Overland, those of you that are watching live at 8 o'clock, so in 5 minutes, he's
Yeah.
going live on 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock Central Time. He's going live on his YouTube channel for a huge, huge, huge giveaway. And so I want Brad and I to end right on time. So
Yep.
we wrapped up that third trip by running through Eglin, which is super cool, all types of great military stuff out there to see. And
Yeah.
then we went into Blackwater, beautiful trails through Blackwater,
Amazing. Amazing.
and ended at one of my all-time favorite campsites, which is Hurricane Lake.
Yes.
And that's such a great spot. So the way that I want to end all of these Fat Story live stream videos there, Mr. Brad, is I want to do a rapid fire question time just to wrap this up. Okay.
Lay
So
it on me,
what I'm
sugar.
going to do is I'm going to maximize you. So it's just you. Look at you, just Brad now. And my first question is this: what was your favorite campsite on the Fat?
Hurricane Lake.
Okay, there we go. You're picking up on the rapid fire. Okay, so Hurricane
No, I'm
Lake.
not.
Now there you go. Favorite point of interest.
Favorite point of interest, probably the caves.
The caves in Citrus. Okay,
Yep.
all right.
It's
In
just so
30
fun.
seconds or less, scariest moment.
Oh, getting hit in the face with a bungee cord.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yep.
I would say that was up there on scary moments for me, but I legit was terrified when we got pulled over by military police. Okay.
Yeah, that could have been weird.
That was up there, yeah. But both in the same trip and within like 2 hours of each other.
That was a
Okay.
good one. Yeah.
Funniest moment.
Mm, I don't know. It's a toss up. Saltwater crossings was a good one.
All the
I'm gonna go
inside
with
jokes are
saltwater
coming out
crossings.
wrong. Okay,
Yeah, I'm
saltwater
gonna go with saltwater
crossings.
crossings.
Yeah, okay. Which only a few people will understand that, but yeah, saltwater crossings was super great. Okay, favorite WMA or national forest out of all of them. If you had to pick one, what was your favorite one?
Oh, Blackwater.
Blackwater. Okay,
Or
all
maybe
right.
Apalachicola. I gotta go with Apalachicola. That was a redemption story for my wife and I.
Okay,
Apalachicola.
okay, all right. One thing you learned.
Man, that's hard because I learned so much. Probably that I don't need near as much stuff as we think we do to self-sustain out in the woods.
Okay, I like it. Something you wish everyone knew.
Um, that I love them.
Oh, there you go. I like it. Okay. And last but not least, Brad,
Yes.
tell us where to find you on the social media, all of that type of stuff.
Okay, sweet. So yeah, Instagram is OVERLANDeRoos, super simple and easy, and then YouTube is just OVERLANDeRoos as well. I don't have a Facebook page or Patreon or anything like that, but you can find me pretty active in the Fat page on Facebook. I'm one of the admins over there, so I get to tell you that you can come in or can't come in, and what you can and can't post, which is
Oh,
super
you're
fun.
such an overland gatekeeper, Brad.
The gatekeeper. It's actually one of the coolest parts is funneling people into the Fat group, but. Those I'm trying to talk really fast because
You're
Asia's
good.
he's coming. But those are the two places you can find me the most active. I'm trying to get more involved in the community page on YouTube. But man, just trying to balance that time and get everything out on a timely manner and a schedule is hard. So I want to take this real quick opportunity to tell you, bear with me. I know that my video releases have gotten further and shorter. It's kind of like an accordion effect. Stick with me. I'm trying to narrow down a schedule here where I can balance the family life with the YouTube life, and because that's super important. But I am going to release video. I will never abandon you guys, and you can find me over there.
There you go. That's right, Brad. Thank you so much for being my first person on Fat Stories. Thanks for being a great friend.
What a
Thanks for
pleasure.
being a dad and husband to your wife and to your kids. You make that your first priority, which is
I
a
do.
awesome, legendary thing. You make great videos when you have time, and I think that's great. You put positivity into the world and you motivate people to get into the outdoors, and I think that is great. So thank you for your time. Those of you that are
Of
watching,
course.
thanks for watching. Go hang out with Asia from Baptism Overland on his channel right freaking now.
Hope you
See you
win.
guys.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.